poppin', y'all? It is your boy Guardy3, and welcome to Coffee and Sports, the morning show. Of course, joining me just like every Friday, he is the greatest co-host of all time. He is Mo Better. How you doing, Mo?
Hey, good morning, Brett. Morning, Tony. You know what? Welcome, chat. Glad to see you guys. Let's get into it.
And of course, joining us this morning, he is from podcast name Deferred. He is Seven.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we get to do this today.
By the way, that's one of the best names out there. I don't care what anybody says. That's an awesome podcast name.
I just hate the Dodgers, so anything I can do that slights them just brings me joy. That's really where it comes from.
I love that. I love that.
No, fair enough.
Seven come out swinging.
Speaking of the Dodgers, you know, I got to give them some one of their players some love real quick. Shout out to Clayton Kershaw, only 3 strikeouts away from 3,000. It's not a milestone you see every day. He probably hits it in his next start at Dodger Stadium. So,
yeah, he is. Clayton Kershaw is such a unique talent, and I love getting to watch him pitch. I'd probably like him more if he wasn't on the Dodgers, to be honest. I hope that he's able to finish career strong. He's been plagued with a lot of injuries, but he's a good talent that does well when the lights are bright most of the time. So congratulations to him. He's one of those guys that certainly deserves that recognition.
As a casual Dodgers fan, what I love about Kershaw is I always compare him to the character from what is that baseball movie with Nuke LaLoosh? I compare him to Nuke LaLoosh. You know what I mean? The one with Kevin Costner, Nuke. I
Bull Durham.
I love Bull Durham on the low. I love it on the low. It's an underrated movie in my opinion. But he's big, tall, powerful, and I was glad he was able to get at least one championship because he needed that for all the postseasons he's been through. So great player. Hope he finishes his career strong.
I agree.
No, absolutely. I remember, always kind of watching Kershaw since he was kind of a rookie. I've always loved his curveball. If there's one guy who's like curveball, I fell in love with immediately at first sight. It was Kershaw. He has such just a wide variety of nasty pitches, and I know he's dealt with a lot of injuries, so I'm glad that he was able to get his postseason, his World Series run. Even if I'm not the biggest Dodgers fan, glad that he is able to get his ring because he really deserved that one.
Absolutely, and for as old as he is, I mean, he's a 37-year-old pitcher. He's actually only a month younger than me, which it kind of pains me a little bit to say he's old. Since he's come back from injury this year, he only has a 3.03 ERA. Like he's keeping him from scoring, and that's your job as a pitcher is to keep the ball from leaving the yard, and he does a great job at it.
Oh, talking about age in sports is weird. You're just like, oh, this guy's old, and he's really only like 35, 37.
Right.
It's like, listen, I'll be turning 30 this year, and in sports age, I'll be like, oh, he's a vet. He's almost over the hill. I'll be like, ouch. Does that mean I'm over the hill? Hold on. Hey, by the way, speaking of underrated baseball movies, actually, is just watching Little Big League, where they have the kid be the minister of the Minnesota Twins. Fantastic movie. I love that they brought in Ken Griffey and Randy Johnson in the end. That was just such a terrific cameo.
See, there you go. We just drifted off a little bit. You say that, and then he hits me with Bull Durham, and now I'm thinking about my favorite baseball movie all time. It's not Field of Dreams. I love Field of Dreams, but my favorite baseball movie is The Natural.
Great movie.
That is my favorite baseball. It's just a great movie.
For me, it's tough. Like it's a legitimate tie for me between Angels in the Outfield and Rookie of the Year, because you got Christopher Lloyd on one hand, and then Ian Thomas Nichols on the other hand, which both just classic movies. And I know baseball is it's we always called it a kid's game, and or obviously there's the Sandlot as an honorable mention, but there's some really good baseball movies out there. What about you, Marty?
The Sandlot, that's a good one.
Say, here we got some Rookie of the Year. Love to rewatch Rookie of the Year. Major League and League of Their Own.
Oh, Major League has so many funny moments.
Charlie Sheen at his prime.
Facts.
Sandlot and Moneyball was another good one.
Moneyball is a good movie.
Absolute classic with Moneyball. Say of course there's some unfortunate controversy too, as we saw. We finally saw what's going to happen with Wander Franco. He's going 2 years in prison, so
it's a suspended sentence. Like that's salt in the wound to me. Not just that it's only 2 years, but it's a suspended sentence. He only has to go to jail if he talks to a minor with sexual intention. That's not justice.
Yuck. It's just such an unfortunate and terrible situation all around. Like, that is absolutely not enough for Wander. Like, part of me, like, I'm glad that the mother got punished too for being a part of this.
Right.
But at the same time, like, Wander should have gotten a lot bigger sentence. But I guess
if you listen to what Seven said, that's brutal. You only go to jail if you say something to a minor that's sexually, a sexual conversation. Like, are people walking around following this guy around as he has conversations? Like, what is that? That's terrible. That is the epitome of not justice.
Based on all information, this girl was at least 12. Was 12 when the relationship started, possibly as young as 11. They conceived a child together, so there's no question that things happened. And this is the result.
That's terrible.
Yeah, say it. At the end of the day, it's unfortunate he didn't get more, but say it. He definitely deserved the bouquet. He deserved the life, absolutely. Or, as much as you could possibly throw at him legally. Same with the mom. It's a terrible situation, and I just, say I hope this is the last time we kind of see or hear from him again. Like, I really don't want to see or hear any talks about, a Wander Franco comeback. I saw some people throw that around. Like, in 2 years you can try to come back. Like, no, he shouldn't be allowed to touch another MLB diamond or anything of the sorts.
He won't. The truth of the matter is he won't ever play in baseball in Major League Baseball again. Part of it's going to stem from the fact that he will not be able to get a work visa in the United States with that kind of a conviction on his record. It's very little chance that it would happen. Even if it does, he's on the restricted list with the MLB, so he's not allowed to play. He's not officially banned, and the reason that he's on the restricted list is for not reporting, because basically once everything came out, he dipped to the Dominican Republic and hasn't said anything to anybody. So the MLB's reasoning for him being on the restricted list is he hasn't reported, he hasn't cooperated with their investigation so that they could actually levy their own punishment. And so he's just done. And the league doesn't want him back because the league does not want that smoke, especially with the looming lockout coming. They don't want any kind of attention on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If he comes back, Trevor Bauer is due a comeback. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't think he's coming back. But I even hate the idea that people are already saying like, oh, he can try to come back in 2 years. Like, why even advocate for that?
Yeah.
And let's forget, there is a victim in this. The victim, even if she was willing, look, like you said, 12 years old, they can conceive the child together. You hope she can go forward have some sense of a normal life, and maybe get some help, some counseling going forward.
She didn't understand. Even if she was a willing participant, she didn't understand what she was subjecting herself to. She didn't understand what her mom was subjecting herself to. All of us that have ever been a parent know that any of our kids, when they were 11 or 12 years old, they thought they knew what life was about, but they didn't know their butt from a hole in the ground. Right. So there's going to come a point, I said it in the short that I posted yesterday, the Wire to Wire Facebook page, self-plug. There's going to come a point as she gets older where she's going to really realize what she was subjected to. And she's then going to have to carry that weight for the rest of her life. Yes. And that just breaks my heart.
And I think that's the part I'm concerned with. Not where she's at now, but where she will be. Not to mention that she does have a child. And going forward, her process and what she's got to go through, and her relationship with her child going forward. I just think there's so much there that you hope that she's getting some kind of counseling, some kind of therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope so. For her sake and for the child's sake.
Absolutely. Let's see, your thoughts on Henry Ruggs trying to come back to the NFL. That's another controversial one. Say speeding and accidentally speeding ended up killing somebody. That's another unfortunate situation that didn't need to happen. What are your guys' thoughts on Henry Ruggs' NFL comeback?
This one's tough. Someone lost their life, but that is a tragic accident. This isn't Henry Ruggs getting in the car, setting out to end someone's life. He was careless and he was reckless, and he definitely deserves some accountability. But I look at his situation so much more different from the DeFranco situation. I think he's a person who, whatever punishment he's had to deal with, the time that he spent away or served, I think he's a redeemable person. That it's just a horrible tragedy and an accident, but is he worthy of a second chance in life going forward? I think so. That's my take on it, is I think so. Now, I can't speak for the loss and the tragedy of what the victim's family's going through or still going through, and they probably are like, no, he doesn't. And I'm good with how they feel. Trust me, because I would feel the same way. But from my standpoint, where you and I sit, where we all sit, horrible tragedy, terrible accident. He's culpable, but it is an accident. Can he be redeemed, and can he go forward and have a semblance of a regular life? I think he should get a shot at going forward with his life. And if an NFL team is interested in bringing him in for a workout, I don't think he's a bad person. He made a bad decision that cost someone their life.
You know, I used to do this show with my buddy Dan, and we called it Sports Report After Dark. And you know, one of the key points behind the show was athletes are people too. And one of the things that we talked about very often is you get a lot of these kids, and this isn't just with football, this is across professional sports as a whole, where these kids go from having nothing to having millions of dollars in the bank, and there is very little education from organizations on how to handle that lifestyle change. And so unfortunately, because of that gap and because of that transition, we see situations like Henry Ruggs in various forms throughout professional sports. And I will say this, in any other country, our system is built on reform, rehabilitation, education, and transition back into regular life. It is so much more in the United States, where it is about punishment. Punishment. Did Henry Ruggs make some bad decisions? Absolutely. Is Henry Ruggs a perfect person? No. But I can tell you this. If we are going to try and make the changes that we want to as a society and move forward, believing in the rehabilitation of a person being able to be a better version of themselves when they move forward after facing punishment for their actions, because we can't take that part away, then we absolutely have to be reasonable and say that Henry Ruggs deserves the ability to earn another chance. And the leash is going to be tighter. When Michael Vick came back after prison, the leash was a lot tighter. Where, there's plenty of situations where we had athletes that were criminals when they came back from their prison sentence, the leash was tighter. That is reasonable. And like Mo said, the family's probably, no, he doesn't deserve another shot. I get it. I support you. But from a human standpoint, from an objective standpoint, I don't know that I want the Chiefs to bring him in as a Chiefs fan. Not saying we don't need him, but we would probably don't. But I don't want the attention on the organization. But if the Raiders, who could really use a receiver, bring him back in and give him another shot, I'm not going to question it. There's plenty of teams that could use a receiver like Henry Ruggs. At the end of the day, it's sports. It's a game. They're human. So I'm not gonna object.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm curious to see how it'll play out, because it's kind of what you just brought up. Because, does he, deserve a second chance at, living a normal life? Yeah, he made a really bad choice, but I think, at the end of the day, everybody does deserve that second chance. And I think the challenge for him, though, coming back to the NFL might not even be skill related. I think he can, get back to, NFL shape, but I think the challenge for him is going to be, is an organization going to be willing to take that chance? Because we all know that there's going to be a huge, negative media firestorm and social media, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare to start if you try to sign him. So do I think he deserves a chance? Yeah, he should probably get a second chance, objectively speaking, but that's the part I question. Do I think it'll happen in the NFL? I think there's a real chance that it just doesn't, because our team's really going to be willing to take all that negative attention and negative media for a receiver that's been out of the game now for 3-4 years. I'm not really sure. I don't think they're gonna.
I would just say this: it's a lot harder to do what he's attempting to do now than it was when Michael Vick came back from prison back then. Social media is much more powerful. It's much more widespread. The information is disseminated so many different ways now. You can have a strong organization, but you're right. There will be some backlash, because some people will just look at it and go, no, that guy killed somebody. He's careless. He's a bad person. Because what's going to happen. Any organization that says we're going to give him a workout or a shot, what happens is the entire tragedy gets brought up like it's brand new again. Mm-hmm. And people will see him. Some will see him in one light, and others will see him in another light. And it would take a strong organization and a fan base that's at least open to the idea of giving him a chance. The beauty of what happened to Michael Vick was, it wasn't that just the Eagles were willing to give him a chance. The fan base opened up their hearts and gave him the opportunity, feeling like he had paid his debt to society. Remember, with Ruggs, there's a loss of life. But again, it's not intentional. It's just a horrible decision. What Mike Vick was doing was terrible, but it wasn't an accident. He was doing that intentionally, and he was forgiven for it. So I'm just saying that there are different ways to look at this.
I agree.
No, absolutely. And then, of course, might as well bring up the final suspension, and then we'll talk about some more positive things. Obviously, Justin Tucker got suspended 10 games. Is this it for Justin Tucker? He's coming off a career worst year. Now he's got all these allegations and a 10-game suspension looming. But I don't think they suspend him for 10 games unless they, found something concrete. So I guess my question to you guys is this the end of the road for Justin Tucker?
It should be. But what makes me almost as mad about the allegations against Justin Tucker, and that's not just because my wife used to be a massage therapist, And so I had to struggle with this back when the Deshaun Watson stuff was all a hot topic. But we're also looking at another similar thing that happened with Deshaun Watson. There is not going to be any accountability towards the Ravens, who have known about these allegations for years and sat on them until they didn't want Justin Tucker around anymore because he lost his accuracy last year. Not going to be a single ounce of accountability for the Ravens organization. And I'm not, that's just, I'm a hater because I'm a Chiefs fan. No, this is, they knew what was going on and didn't say a word. And also, if we want to also point out, because of the similarities between Deshaun Watson and Justin Tucker, they did not issue an edict to Justin Tucker that he's only allowed to get massages from a team massage therapist while he's on an active NFL roster. And Deshaun Watson, even though he's not even playing, he's just injured, and he's going to get released once he's cleared of that, probably at the end of the season. Deshaun Watson can't get treatment from anybody that is not a team massage therapist. Where's the balance in that? Where's the consistency, Roger Goodell?
With the one part with the Ravens that really bothers me is, like, you knew they knew about this. You knew they were just sitting on this one, just waiting for the perfect time. And that bothers me because with the Deshaun Watson stuff, what did they make sure to come on and say? Oh, you see, we have a zero tolerance policy about this kind of thing. I'm like, do you? Like, do you have a zero tolerance policy? Because I highly doubt you just magically figured out all this was happening, like, back when we did. So this has been going on for years, and then you want to flex and go, well, we have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to, Deshaun Watson, but when it's actually, happening on your team, it turns out you got a pretty lenient tolerant policy. There ain't nothing zero about it.
I agree with what Jory said. They better not ever repeat zero tolerance ever again, because it's a lie.
No, absolutely. And by the way, we just got some breaking news. Raptors and their GM, Masai Ujiri, are parting ways.
I knew that was coming. He had done so many great things and done so well at the way he was doing roster construction. But what he had done over the last few years, Barrett, Quickly, Brandon Ingram, the hell are you doing? I said when it happened, you're getting fired. He's getting fired, not shocked. What are you doing? Those pieces don't go together. That is horrible roster construction. And all these guys have big contracts. I don't understand it at all.
Then to say football decisions, like, come on now. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. After the draft, that's the funny part to me, too, with the Raptors, by the way. Like, yeah, no, it's just a lot of guys that are awkward and can't really shoot outside of, like, RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly, but they can be inconsistent with their jumper at times. It's really funny with that team. That's why I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of Colin Murray-Boyles going over there. Because you don't need another forward that struggles to shoot. Like, he's a great talent, but is that what you really needed?
My problem with that team is the names are familiar, right? So you know who Scotty Barnes is and RJ Barrett is and Brandon Ingram is, and Quickly to a lesser degree. But all those familiar names, there's not any one of them that's a number one option on a good team. None of them are number one options. I'm not even sure any of them are number two. At best, Barnes is a number two, not even as a scorer. I think he could be your second or third best player, but not as a scorer. They have a lot of good players, but everybody I named on a really good team, they're third or fourth options.
Mm-hmm.
Number one option, Brandon Ingram ball incoming this year, and it's not a fun watch.
Oh, God.
At least it's up in Canada where we can forget it's going on. That's the best part of that.
That's fair.
That's normally what I like to do with Raptors basketball.
Well, at least Drake's not getting to watch good basketball. That makes me feel a little better inside. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, you know what? That's fair. They're fun to watch for a little bit in the 2010s, but ever since then, it's just been, hey guys, do you want to watch this perennial play-in team? Like, not really.
Having said that, don't be surprised if Usai Ujiri gets hired somewhere else really quick. I think he rebounds quicker than the franchise will.
But so my question with it though is because he went from making really good decisions to, me in college making a lot of questionable decisions. Where did that? What was the change? Was there a disconnect with the organization? Was he not getting as much support behind closed doors from the organization? Like, what caused that? Because that to me would tell me if he's really going to be able, not just about getting a shot somewhere else, if he's going to be successful somewhere else. Because it's like Bill O'Brien with the Houston Texans, which I firmly believe he nuked that team intentionally because he knew what was going on with Deshaun Watson and they wouldn't let him do anything about it. But that's for another episode. But with him, I mean, how much of this was him and how much of this was other stuff in the organization that caused these problems?
I think a lot of it was him because remember, he did what he did right was the team that he put together right before they acquired Kawhi Leonard, right? Mm-hmm. And he took the gamble. We're going to get Kawhi. We're going to make him fall in love with Toronto here. If we have him for a year and we have a great year and he leaves, so be it. They had their all-time great year. They won the title, but Kawhi was a man of his word. Won the title, wasn't a thought, and he bounced. They never recovered from Kawhi Leonard leaving. They never. That was the beginning of the end. Like Siakam was still there, and Siakam's a good player, but I don't think Siakam can carry a team. He's not that kind of player. They never recovered from that. Then they lost Van Fleet. Like a lot of the core pieces. Gasol was already an older player. I just think that a lot of GMs can be really, really smart, and then they outsmart themselves by trying to be cute. Think about what Joe Dumars did and how he put together that Pistons team with Billups and Rip and Tayshaun Prince, adding Rasheed and Benoit. Terrific team. They go to 6 Eastern Conference Finals. They go to 2 NBA Finals. When they lose the second time to the Spurs, he makes a panic move. He trades Ben Wallace away. They lose again in the conference finals to LeBron when LeBron had that amazing fourth quarter. Then he makes another panic move, trades Billups for Allen Iverson. And I love AI, but AI was not a good fit with that team. On the flip side, Billups goes to Denver. First year there, they go to the conference finals. And look, I would say it all started also when they were a championship contending team. They had a pick in the 03 draft. And it was one of them things where, like, you can't get this wrong. Too easy. And he picks Darko Milicic. Kill the franchise. Just killed you. That pick, that's 10 years off your franchise. That's how bad that was. He didn't get, like, if you're not going to get Wade, okay, but you can at least get Bosh or Melo. He didn't get none of them. He took some guy that was just a guy. Those moves right there destroyed the Pistons. And it hurt Joe Dumars. And it's the same thing happening again with Usai Ujiri. But it happens all the time. Calvin Booth did a lot of things great building up the Nuggets roster over the years. They won the championship, but when it came time to pay everybody, he had a mandate from his owner, like, we're not paying everybody. You're going to have to cut salary. So he cut salary, and you cut key role players, and you rob the bench. No bench. And what's happened? They've got knocked out in the playoffs the last couple of years because they don't have any depth. Like, it's a testament to how great Sam Presti is at his job, how great Brad Stevens is at his job. You can have talent, but if you don't have competent people in management, your franchise will struggle.
Yeah.
And I'm glad Cottrell mentioned Fred VanVleet because it's funny because we knew Kawhi was gone, but it feels like the one thing the Raptors kind of did right is they did well in drafting forwards going forward. Obviously, they get Pascal, they had OG. Scotty Barnes was a great pick. It really feels like where they kind of failed was a one. They lean too far into the small ball ideology. Like, I get it, small ball's great, but that doesn't mean you need to draft like 11 6'10" forwards on your roster. Like, you don't need that. And then, of course, they just never replaced the guard play they lost when, Kyle Lowry and Van Fleet bolted.
Yeah.
Like, they never even had that level of consistency. So it feels like just the guard play has just greatly, declined, which obviously they tried to now make up for with Barrett and Quickly. But also, I think they've just, almost changed their philosophy. Like, oh, we got to play small like the rest of the league. Well, your good teams can also go big or small. They can play in a variety of ways. The Raptors can't really do that. Like, their big lineup requires them, playing Jakob Poeltl in clutch time, which is not ideal. He's not a great clutch time player. So, overall, they've just kind of handcuffed themselves to playing, small ball, and that doesn't always work. They always get killed as soon as they hit the play and as soon as they run into a real center.
I have to believe that with him moving on, that the incoming GM, he's going to look to be a seller by the trade deadline. Or maybe he won't wait that long. He might be a seller this offseason. You're going to move. Look, the idea is to have a franchise player. I like Scotty Barnes. I'm a Scotty Barnes fan. But if you think that your team can be a title contender, that would mean that Scotty Barnes would be in his proper role as a second or third option. Right now, he's their best player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I am curious to see where he ends up because I think he for sure, at least some GMs, you can coast on a good, good solid reputation for a while. And I think Ujiri's has done a lot of good work to a point where I think he winds up somewhere else rather quickly. So it'll be interesting to see where he kind of shows up next. Say the old mutual parting to make sure it wasn't a firing either helps him out. So
it does sound a lot nicer, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's funny. I saw somebody. I got a kick out of this. I went online and I saw somebody make a post like top 5 most unstoppable, NBA moves in history, and they're talking about just, unstoppable go-to moves. And one of the moves that was so funny to me was LeBron driving to his left. I'm like, when did that become an actual go-to move? Like, I get it, but there's
you can drive left, but I think LeBron driving right is the go-to move.
Right. That part killed me too. Is you're going the wrong way here, but no, I just found that pretty funny and weird. I don't think a drive to the basket necessarily counts as a go-to move, but
he's unique. And look, when he goes downhill, unstoppable. I don't think nobody would disagree with that. Unstoppable.
Oh, absolutely, LeBronto. Yeah, and of course, who is I'm not gonna lie. Even though, tomorrow we have WWE Night of Champions. A push-off flop is a go-to move.
That's a good one. Well done. Well done.
Call that the James Harden.
I would, yeah, I think it is the James Harden. Although a lot of people who suddenly aren't fans of SGAs, they'd call that his move. Not me. I'm not one of them. I'm just saying.
No, I don't think. Listen, if we had a flopping Hall of Fame, I think James Harden would deserve his own class.
Ooh, ahead of Vladdy? Oh no.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, James Harden was literally changing the rule book on flopping. Some of the stuff he did to draw fouls was the most absurd things I have ever seen. Like watching him just intentionally hook arms and even use other people's arms to hit himself in the face so he can throw his head back. Like,
that's the impressive thing. I saw James Harden cross into somebody, and he grabbed their arm and raised it up, and then he and he got the call. Like the guy was an artist when it comes to flopping.
I think my favorite was one like he randomly jumped on like Zach LaVine's back, and they both go to the ground, and it's a foul on Zach LaVine. And Zach LaVine's just over there heated, and I'm like, you know what? I get it because I'd be furious too. Like, what if people think Shea's bad at flopping? Oh boy. Hopefully you weren't watching basketball in 2017, 2018.
Oh yeah.
Brunson, Harden, Braun.
Wait a minute, I didn't see that lineup. Brunson, Harden. You know what? I don't know. We're losing an underrated flopper. I think Trae Young's an underrated flopper.
You know what? I'm going to move Braun to the 4 in that lineup, and I'm going to add Marcus Smart in at small forward.
Oh,
That's
a good one. That's a good one.
He has my favorite flop of all time. Is a playoff game between Boston and Atlanta, and he barely gets bumped, and he just goes flying. And I'm just like, dude, you just went 8 feet in the air, and you barely got touched by, out of all people, mind you, you got bumped by Kyle Korver. He ain't that strong. Come on now. We've all seen Kyle Korver. You are not flying 10 feet in the air. Like, Kyle Korver could have lowered his whole shoulder into you, and you probably would have barely moved. Come on now.
That's a really impressive flopping lineup, though. Brunson, Harden, Braun. I don't know if Braun's top 5 as a flopper. Like I said, I think Trae Young is more of a flopper than Brunson is. I do. I think he's my and a guy that suddenly isn't a flopper. Luka's a great. Luka's whining for calls to opening tip. Like, is any more? If anybody's a foul merchant, Luka's a foul merchant.
I agree with that. And Embiid at the 4, I can support that too.
Oh, Embiid, yeah. Okay, I got that.
Say, I do love that Vlad gets his respect in this lineup too. I've never seen somebody so big fall to the ground as much as he did. Like, it was truly impressive that he was flopping before it was even popular to flop. True love of the game right there.
That's true.
A visionary.
I remember Vladdy would always snap his head back like he was taking fake jabs. It would drive. It used to drive Shaq crazy the way he would snap his head back.
Say that's how he dealt with Shaq, and that was always so funny. It's just anytime he got bumped, you just saw the all right, Vladdy, calm down. So he is the OG flopper. No, absolutely.
Agreed.
I'll say, how scale of 1 to 10, obviously tomorrow it is WWE Night of Champions, or I guess tomorrow afternoon. How excited are you guys for Night of Champions? Obviously headlined by John Cena versus CM Punk for the last time.
I mean, I wish we got more buildup. I feel like, and I get the point of it. It's kind of, the last thing, because both of those guys are kind of getting up there. But, a storyline like this in the Attitude Era, this would go on for a month. Every possible show, there's something. More pipe bombs, more promos, and there hasn't really been as much. And I think that's probably the most disappointing thing for me is you've got 2 guys that are actually very entertaining with a microphone in their hands. I consider CM Punk to be almost god tier when it comes to cutting a promo or doing a pipe bomb, but and Cena, but and Punk's not the best in the ring, but he makes everything entertaining. And I Cena is really good in the ring, and definitely above average with a mic in his hand. This story, there should be a lot more to this story than what there has been. I think that's the hardest thing for me on this. I'm looking forward to it, but I almost feel like I'm being left wanting.
I almost think that kind of almost like leads into another question. Does WWE have too many pay-per-views? Because that's kind of where a lot of this problem stems, right? It's, we have Saturday night's main event. Oh yeah, 2 weeks later it's already Night of Champions. Okay, and another 2 weeks, say, and then we're not that far off of SummerSlam, and in like 2 weeks it's Evolution, 2, and another Saturday night's main event. Like, is WWE like cutting themselves short by, scheduling so many events in such a small amount of time, do you guys think?
To Seven's point about storyline and build-up, yeah, what I remember most about the Attitude Era was not only would you get a bigger build-up and more story, you would get a potential random match of two top contenders on a Monday Night Raw. Like, it would happen. And now they use Raw more for like preliminary talent, and maybe you'll get like two mid-card people in the main event. I think they do have too many pay-per-views. They seem to be so close together where they don't seem nearly as special as they once did. So I do think they have to, like, maybe cut back on a couple of the pay-per-views and invest in putting on a better production on the TV shows and invest more into the storytelling. Like, the Cena Punk buildup, I don't think has been a great buildup. I think that's why Cena did the pipe bomb part 2, because it was needed. It was needed. And he did it. He did a great job, but it was needed because it really wasn't a great buildup to the two of them. It kind of came out of nowhere, and we got the match, and it's so fast. And these are two of the biggest stars in all of professional wrestling, and the buildup was very mild. So I'm with 700%. And I don't know if he agrees about there's too many pay-per-views, but I think there are.
I think there are, and when you're, and I'll also say this about the lack of buildup. When you're not going to have as much buildup, you have to have the match being done by guys that are great in the ring. Like the first, I'll going back to the Attitude Era again. The first Mankind Undertaker Hell in a Cell match, obviously iconic. Nobody talks about the build up to that match because there wasn't really a lot. Like there was a story there if you go back and you watch the clips, but there wasn't a lot of build up. But you had two guys that were dedicated to the craft in its entirety that could do anything that was necessary in a match to tell a story in the ring. CM Punk and John Cena are not guys that tell a story in the ring. So there should absolutely be more. And when you're doing a pay-per-view every 2 weeks, you're killing your audience because that $60 every time, $80 every time, whatever it is now, is not as available. And as a result, do I want to get Night of Champions or do I want to get SummerSlam? Well, obviously, I'm going to be more interested in SummerSlam than Night of Champions, so I'm not going to put that money forward. You know what I mean? So I think they are kind of handcuffing themselves a little bit.
I'll say I will say that I guess the one nice part about them having so many events is them obviously now being on a streaming service where you only it's the $9 because I remember how brutal it was to pay $60 to $80 and they'd have a pay-per-view every 3 weeks. At least it's now on Peacock where you only have to pay like $10
$10 a month, right?
Yeah, no, I remember those days. That would be brutal. At times it'd be like, hey, do you want to pay $60 to watch Capital Punishment? Like, you know what? Sure, why not?
And by the way, that's let me keep it a buck. That's the only reason I have Peacock. And Peacock has other shows and stuff on it, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't watch them. I only have Peacock because of the wrestling.
No, fair enough. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Like, that's the only reason I still have Peacock. It's like, well, I gotta watch my pay-per-view somehow. So, say it. I will say I'm excited for that. It should be a fun show. A lot of great in-ring work coming, and I will say these the talent nowadays is just so good in the ring, and I love it. Like now, even like the throwaway matches are really good, and I will say, like growing up, watching the talent level between like even from when I like in 2011 to now 2025, it's absolutely fantastic to see that everybody just gets better and better at their craft.
I love where the women's division is now. And look, respectfully to the talented ladies from the Attitude Era, the women's division now is stronger than it's ever been, and they're more, lack of a better way to phrase this, they're better wrestlers than the women's of the Attitude Era. A lot of the women in the Attitude Era, they were good athletes, but they weren't really wrestlers. A lot of them weren't even athletes. They were more divas than anything, right? That's why they had the Divas Championship and things like that. Like when you saw what's her name? Tori
Wilson?
Right. Tori Wilson wasn't really a wrestler. When she used to wrestle against, and I can't remember her name, who's the young lady who was nothing but legs? All legs. Like she was like her and Tori Wilson were there at the same time, but that's what she was famous for. I think her legs were like 36 inches long or something like that. Like it's on the tip of my tongue. Like she was there forever, big star. I can't remember. Somebody in the chat will give me the name, but yeah. But they weren't wrestlers. That was my point. And when you look at where the women's division is now, when you look at people like Asuka or Io or Rhea Ripley and Jade, Bianca Belair, like, and now we've got Stephanie McClure. Like, there was so much talent in the women's division. We're in a time now where somebody goes, "Well, Mo, the main event is going to be two women." That doesn't surprise me.
Was it Stacy Keibler that you were talking about?
Yes. Thank you, Seven. Stacy Keibler, who looked more like a supermodel than a wrestler, but she wasn't really a wrestler. She was just more of an entertainer, a diva. They were different back then. Now they're wrestlers. Like they get in it. Like you can have a ladies all women's main event, and they put on an amazing show.
In the Attitude Era, the women's more often than not, with very limited exception of the true wrestlers like Chyna and Lita, most of the female wrestlers in the Attitude Era were there for the appearance. They were there to be divas because that's what Vince McMahon wanted them to be. The TNA matches, the bra and panties matches. That's what Vince McMahon wanted from the women's division.
Right.
Now these women have to perform. They have to wrestle. Bianca Belair wouldn't have worked in the Attitude Era, but I can tell you right now that if I see there's a Bianca Belair match on, I bet you bet your ass I'm sitting down and watching it.
Right. No, I agree, Control. Lita was incredible, but she was the exception, not the rule. Seven's right. They were there mostly to be divas and to be eye candy. Let's keep it a buck. Back in the Attitude Era, Vince was selling. He was selling sex and entertainment at the time. That's what he went with, and it worked. It was successful. It was why on the men's side you can create a character like Val Venus. Remember that guy? Right? Remember that? Hello, ladies. You remember that guy? Right. I'm just saying.
Jericho's first character. Wasn't he the one that was Mr. Assman for his first character? That's who it was.
I think that was Billy Gunn.
Oh no, you're right. That was Billy. Okay, yeah, badass Billy Gunn. But yeah, like so many that were just entertainment.
Right, but now they're like I said, they're bona fide wrestlers. You look at the women's division, And I'm not gonna front. When I was an avid wrestling fan, but when there was a women's match, I didn't really watch it as much because it wasn't really high level wrestling the way it is today.
Football season and reality TV are the only two reasons to have Peacock. Jory, I feel like you're a Love Island fan. You watch Love Island? I'm curious. Big Vis. Oh, Big Vis. Oh, gosh.
I love that one.
You know, Big Vis was interesting because, like, on one hand, he did this really cool, like, spinning heel kick for being, like, 500 pounds. Like, it was incredible. On the other hand, he also had that one move that, like, almost put me into therapy early when he would just straight up pump people on the ground. And it was just the most awkward looking move. Like, it was one of those, like, of course, that'd probably be the move that your parents watch. Shit, like, what are you watching? Wrestling? And they look at just Vis doing his finisher. He's just straight up pumping somebody on the ground. I'm like, oh, gosh.
That is a great reference, Cottrell. Viscera. Wow, I remember that dude. Whoa.
Bad Girls Club
reruns. That tracks. That tracks.
Hey, fair enough. I will say too, I love the hey, fair enough. I will say about the Attitude Era too, one thing I loved about that is the mid card was always just so entertaining. They always had something going on, and it felt like that kind of fell apart in the mid 2000s, but at least in the Attitude Era, there was just always something going on in the mid card.
It was always funny. That was where the funny part of the show is. That's where you'd have Godfather come out in some jobber match that had nothing to do with any of the main stories that were going on. It was just there for funny. Or Rikishi would put his butt in somebody's face for 3 minutes. Like, like
look, let's keep it a buck. Vince McMahon was very much into stereotypes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That was, yeah. That's where he made his money.
Did someone say Rikishi? Some of the stuff they got away with was insane. Eugene being a character was wild.
100%. Cottrell is so spot on. They did stuff back then. You could not get away with that stuff today, man. They were crossing all kind of lines.
That's absolutely fair. Yeah, no, we said Rikishi, which you know what that means. He's probably getting ready to complain about how Jey Uso doesn't have a 5,000-day title reign yet.
Do you remember? Do you remember when Triple H and Stephanie how they got married?
Yeah.
Right. That's a crime. Now, granted, you don't think that really happened, but just to portray it like that. So he drives her through a Vegas drive-through marriage place and the guy goes, "Do you take her?" And he goes, "Yes." And then he asks her, she's knocked out, and Triple H turns away and goes, "I do." Like, yo, this dude is wild. It was insane. Him and Shawn Michaels got away with things. You can't do that stuff today. You can't.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Cottrell with the Crime Time
shout out. Oh, my God. Crime Time. Oh, that was so bad. So bad.
Or what was that? I can't remember his name. It was the Japanese guys that would come out. They would act like they were talking, and then somebody else was doing dubs. And
I know that one. Yeah, that was horrible too. Yes.
Oh my, yeah.
Yo, Vince was
dumb funny.
Yes. Vince was wild. I remember when he brought Tony Atlas back. This after he had been long gone from WWE for the longest time. But he brought him back as an African, and he had Tony Atlas. He called him Saba Simba. And suddenly Tony Atlas couldn't speak anymore. And basically he walked around like a fit Kamala. Horrible.
And sometimes the stereotypes wouldn't even make sense at times. It's like Hakeem the African Dream, and it's just a big, massively overweight 300 pound white dude. I'm like, what?
And remember when he was dancing? Come on. The stuff they did.
Yeah.
The first persona that Dwayne Johnson came out with when he came up to the WWE.
Oh, what was that? It was called it was something really corny.
It was like it definitely leaning on the African thing or Samoan thing on that one too, if I recall correctly. Yeah. And it didn't last long either before he kind of pushed away from it. But yeah, that was Vince's bread and butter with stereotypes.
I forgot what it was, but it was so lame.
The one thing that will always stick with me from the Attitude Era, and it's the worst thing ever, maybe the worst theme song of all time, but when Right to Censor would come out and that effing theme song would go off, and it was just the car alarms going off for 4 minutes. It was the most brutal thing ever.
Oh, 7, somebody hit you. They got it. He was known as Rocky Maivia. That was it. That was the corny character that The Rock was, Rocky Maivia.
Yeah, he had the Die Rocky Die chance. People hated the Rocky Maivia gimmick.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh my god, I hated Right to Censor.
Oh god, that entire storyline just irritated me.
They did some bad stuff, man. Like the whole stuff with what was that dude's name? Al Snow. They did a lot of weird stuff. Vince was wild.
The only reason I remembered Right to Censor recently is because I think it was Shayna Baszler was doing this gimmick online where she would be like, oh, this, she'd post a picture of some of the ladies and be like, oh, they should be wearing more clothes, etc. And people are going, are they bringing back Right to Censor? I'm like, out of all the gimmicks to bring back, please don't bring back Right to Censor. Not that one. Keep that one in the past.
Cottrell's right. It wasn't Attitude Era, but I was a big fan of Mr. Kennedy too. He should have got a title run. I just love how he would come out, Mr. Kennedy. Yo, he's right. Mr. Kennedy was LA Knight before LA Knight.
I was gonna say LA Knight on Monday night, that opening match against Braun Breaker. That was I was actually really impressed by it because I hadn't actually sat and watched either one of them closely. I was always just going through highlights and stuff. And there was a few different moves that they did in that match that were legitimately impressive, solid wrestling moves. And yeah, no, I just respect.
I will give LA Knight credit. He is continuously shown a lot of improvement in the ring, and especially I still remember when he fought Jacob Fatu and he hit that really sweet mid-air BFT on him at WrestleMania. I'll give him credit. He's always looking to improve, it seems, every week. So, and Braun Breaker's just an absolute freak athlete. You can put him in the ring against anybody, and he just makes it work.
He is a product of a great gene pool because both the Steiner brothers were great athletes, especially Scott Steiner. Before he became Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner was a freak athlete.
Hey, he went from freak athlete to the greatest promo cutter of all time. Everybody remembers Steiner Math. It was the greatest thing ever.
Steiner Math.
I still quote it. Say you always got to take into consideration when you're doing a math problem what happens when you add Kurt Angle to the mix. Just in TNA, he was just such a gem. He was so funny in TNA. Yeah, I see TNA Steiner was my dude.
Facts, Cottrell.
But now we already hit that 1 hour mark. See, our time is up. That was a lot of fun.
It was a good show.
Say, anything y'all want to add before we get up on out of here?
No morning minute today, obviously, because I did this and I start work in 25 minutes. But yeah, check me out on TikTok at FGD7. I try to pour some morning minute every day that I can. If it, I also put it on the Wire to Wire channel, so definitely check it out.
Say anything
I just want to thank the chat. Thank the chat. The chat was really live this morning, so appreciate Endo, appreciate Cottrell, appreciate Jory, everybody coming in. You guys actually kept the conversation going with your great comments, so thank you, chat. Thank you, everybody else that came in this morning to listen to us. Hey, guys, make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. We appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hey, Tony, thank you for joining us this morning. Definitely loved having you, man. If you ever want to hop back in on a Friday with Mo and I, you're always more than welcome, sir.
Always.
In the meantime,
thank you. Especially gets closer to baseball playoff times, I'll be in a lot more.
Hey, fair enough. Say, thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your night.